Uh-oh, it's holiday season, and you know what that means. There's candy, there's cake, there's the Halloween margaritas. I don't know what you all have on these holidays. What is up, people? It's John Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast, where I help people get lean, gain muscle, and build some damn confidence. And today, we're talking about planning for the holidays and how the holidays ruin some people's diets. Now, I'm just kidding there, but when I'm saying that the holidays ruin some people's diets, because they really don't. Let me back up a little bit. So, around this time of the year, just attendance starts to plummet. Oh, I just want to put on my hood and disappear like everybody else who disappears. Attendance starts to plummet at gyms everywhere. And, it's all of a sudden people just start to forget. They start to forget about why they started doing what they're doing. Now, and that makes sense because the further you get away from the starting point of anything, the easier it is to lose track of why you're doing it and all that stuff. But when the new year starts, a lot of people, including people who are regular people who work out normally, who fall off, unfortunately, wink, wink, they will also say that the holidays ruin their diet. They'll say things like, oh, and then Thanksgiving rolled around and I had, Thanksgiving just wrecks everything. And, then there's the Halloween and Halloween is, Halloween just ruins everything. The food I'm eating on Halloween. And there's the Christmas food and the cookies and stuff like that. And you know what? I completely get your point, but I don't have a problem with eating candy on Halloween, neither should you, or having the Thanksgiving food, or having any of those holiday treats that you want, right? The holidays really aren't the problem because, essentially the holidays go like this. Let's see, Halloween, one night, Thanksgiving, another night. If you're Jewish, it's a little bit longer. You've got, you don't have Christmas, you have the other holiday. Maybe I'm being a little culturally insensitive here, but, it's longer. I guess there's more that they celebrate in their holiday season, so I can't speak for them. But, really what we're looking at is Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, those are really just a handful of days. I mean, we're looking at literally like 4 or 5 days that would be considered the actual holidays, right? And so it's not really the holidays that you should be concerned about because you could just call those all cheat meals. Thanksgiving meal, eat whatever you want. Halloween, eat whatever you want. New Year's, Christmas Day, eat whatever you want with your friends and family. These are moments to be cherished and to be shared with them. But it's everything else that happens during the year and leading up to the holidays that is probably the actual, not probably, is the actual reason why you're dropping the ball. So let's talk about this a little bit. I would say, and I'm looking at my notes, so I'm looking down here, in this plan for the holiday season, is that you should plan the days or meals you will indulge. And that's not too hard to do. Let's put it this way. So, you know how I mentioned that there's Halloween and there's Christmas and there's, maybe you have a Jewish holiday or Kwanzaa or whatever you have, right? Pick the days through every month that you want to eat your meal on, right? Your crazy, your less healthy meal, right? Crazy meal. Your less healthy meal, right? That you want to have your cookies and candies and you want to have your glass of wine or whatever, your bread. That bread's not bad, but you want to have extra bread, rolls, whatever it is that you want. Pick one of those days during that season. So, what the reason that the holidays wreck people is because, sure, on Halloween you want to have candy, and maybe if you're my age, you want to drink, right? But, make sure that you just do that one time if you're dieting, or one time if you're trying to be healthy during the month of Halloween. So, I remember when I was younger, if, Halloween fell on a Friday, I would dress up like 5 different characters that whole week, and I would party the whole week or that 3-day weekend or whatever the case might be, right? And you don't really have to go that hard every time, do you? If you have multiple events that you have to go to, pick one that you're gonna eat and have drinks at, and then the other ones just go and hang out and enjoy people's company. You don't have to go that hard and eat everything at every party. If Sharon shows up in the office with pumpkin spice cookies, which I actually really like, maybe you don't have to do that if you've already pre-planned that you're going to eat at the event that you're going to go to for Halloween later that week. Are you following what I'm saying? It's all the other little extra things that show up, the extra foods that show up that end up kind of messing people up with their nutrition. It's not that night. So my recommendation is you pick one place to do that. Now, maybe you're in a situation like I've been, like on Thanksgiving or something, where you have to go to multiple people's houses. And you have your wife's house that you have to go to, or your girlfriend's house, and you have your boyfriend's house, and your great aunt who doesn't talk to one side of the family's house, and she really wants you over there because you're her favorite nephew or niece, right? So you have to go to 3 houses that day. Whatever the case might be, if you've got more than one Thanksgiving, focus on eating a little bit healthier at certain places, or eating smaller portions. When I eat Thanksgiving, because I generally eat pretty clean and I don't eat like a ton of food in one sitting, I eat 6 meals a day, but I don't eat a ton in one sitting. I can't eat that much in that meal. And so what you could do is you could practice just having a smaller portion if you've got to go to your mom's house and then go to your girlfriend or boyfriend's parents' house and then go to your aunt Lisa's house, right? If you've got to eat at everybody's houses, maybe eat less at each person's house. Maybe don't have dessert at each person's house. Be like, hey, we just came from my parents' house and I already had the pumpkin pie, but that's all you got to do, really. Or you can have some of that stuff, but just eat smaller portions. So it's either eat smaller portions on Thanksgiving, or that's it. Eat smaller portions on Thanksgiving, or try to eat the healthier things. There we go. That's the other option, is that a lot of times you can have turkey, and maybe if someone has salad or something, you can have that. You can have some lighter options at different people's houses. And generally we know who will have lighter options. My parents generally have some lighter options. That's just how my parents are. So they have some heavier stuff and then some lighter stuff, and I eat a mix of that. So if I do go to my girlfriend's family, I will probably eat heavier when I go there, just because that's the way I do it. So moving on from Thanksgiving and to any of the holidays, right? Christmas rolls around, and that's a tricky one. To be fair, it is tricky because, people will show up in your offices, people will show up with like candy, cookies, and stuff like that, and you don't want to always shoot people down. In certain situations, you just don't have to accept it. So if Karen shows up in the office and she's brought, cookies, sugar cookies with, old Saint Nick's face and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer's face, made on them, right? You know what I'm talking about? Right on there. Maybe you don't need to have that, right? And she just leaves them in the corporate office there in the staff room. You don't need to eat them, right? You can just look at them and be like, oh, those look really great, but I'm gonna wait until I have dinner with my family, Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, whatever your tradition is, or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever the case might be, right? Your Kwanzaa meal. You're gonna wait until that. You don't need to have this old Saint Nick cookie that just randomly showed up. It was unplanned. So my point here is that stick to your plan. Pick the place that you want to eat the dinner at and stick to your plan. Now, let's say, here's another one, that people bring you food and they give it to you as a gift. Generally, you don't have to eat it in front of them. So if someone brings you, Snickers bars shaped like Santa Claus's head, right? I think that's an item that people put out there. And you weren't expecting it. And you're like, oh my God, Karen, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. You can just pretend, because it's not even really pretending, because you like Snickers bars. You can either A, eat that and then deduct that from your dessert later on that day, or B, you can share it with somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that. Re-gifting. I do it all the time. My mom refuses to not buy me candy. I'm not a big candy eater. I like candy, but I'm not like huge on it. I prefer things like hearty things, like, believe it or not, this is true. I like things like hippie bars that are like real oaty and stuff like that. Those things aren't really actually healthier, right? They've got oats in them and stuff like that, but they have a ton of sugar. So I prefer things like that, or things like jerky, things like that. Those are the treats that I like. I don't have a real bad sweet tooth. So But for some reason, my mom every year, no matter what, every holiday, gets me some kind of candy. And I always tell her not to. If you have a mom that is like that, who loves and cares about you, but refuses to listen to your personal needs and desires, I hope you're not listening to this, Mom. Then you should, don't, you can tell her, because she's your mom. I tell her every time, I'm like, hey, Mom, please don't get me candy. You can do that in advance. And if she refuses to follow your orders, you can just give it away. I mean, I gave all this candy that my mom got me these last 2 years in a row to Becca, my girlfriend's nieces, Lily and Sandy. So you can find somebody else to pawn your stuff off on. And you don't need to feel bad about that either. You don't need to feel like you're being rude or anything like that. That's not wrong. In fact, sharing is caring. So, those are just a few things that you can do. Let me see. I wrote a list here, and I'm kind of going off script. But, my point here is that, these were the 3 tips, if you didn't catch them, is plan for the days that you want to eat, the meals that you want to eat and indulge on, Stick to those no matter what. Don't break it by eating the random cookies that show up in the office or the candy that someone presents you, even though it falls out of your nutrition plan that you've already set up for yourself. And then 3, eat guilt-free. So, there are sometimes people will feel bad about eating certain kinds of foods. And I don't want you to feel bad or to help you develop a bad sense of self about what you're eating. That's not the goal here. The holidays, sometimes during the holidays, people will feel guilty about what they've eaten. And you really shouldn't. I never want anybody to feel guilty and develop a negative attitude or self-perception about what they do with their food, right? I don't want you to develop that kind of experience. You should have a good time and you should be able to eat all of those things guilt-free. And if you follow these plans, unless I'm missing something, I think you'd be pretty guilt-free in my book, because those are just 4 or 5 cheat meals, remember? Those meals, the Thanksgiving, the Halloween stuff, the Christmas stuff, it's just another cheat meal amongst many other cheat meals, but they're just a little bit tastier and a little bit more special because you're spending them with your friends and with your families. All right, people, thank you so much for tuning in to the Total Body Training Podcast. Until next time, peace.